Enjoy one-story living and walking paths right outside your door. Spend less time on upkeep and more time enjoying spring. Learn more by clicking our iTown at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
WTIM.
Good morning, Central Illinois, and welcome to the WTIM Morning Show on your information station. The show is sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Reed Kamai, and as we speak here on a Monday morning, it's really all been going down in Central Illinois, and not just with what we'll talk about with the first guest this morning. We've been dealing with some severe weather in the listening area. I actually might be able to catch some of the information coming in through my microphone. So we'll be keeping on that, and there may be more updates as the show goes on, and we're going to keep you abreast with all of that. Also, I've actually been on the back end of a little bit of a cold, and I'm really hoping my vocal cords don't give out at all on the WTIM morning show this morning, although I might be in luck for this first segment here, because our first guest this morning always has a lot to say when it comes to Illinois politics, and I'm talking about Dr. Kent Redfield, professor of political science at the University of Illinois Springfield. Dr. Redfield, thanks for coming on this morning.
Oh, good to be here.
Yes, it is good to have you on this morning. A lot going on. Obviously, the budget is really the big topic of conversation, and the process has also seen apparently a constitutional amendment, a millionaire tax constitutional amendment. Dr. Redfield, I'd love it if you could fill us in on that, and what the road to it potentially passing, if at all, would be.
Oh, sure. So the legislature needs to get a budget.
I'm weatherology meteorologist Derek Height
second.
with a significant weather update. A new severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for portions of Christian, Shelby, and Macon counties until 9:30 a.m. this morning. This storm has the potential for both large hail and strong straight-line winds. Hail the size of quarters and winds up to 60 miles an hour are likely as it pushes northeast at about 50 miles an hour. Again, a severe thunderstorm warning continues for parts of Christian, Shelby, and Macon counties until 9:30 a.m. this morning. Remember, this storm has the potential for quarter-size hail and wind gusts to 60 miles an hour. Strong storms also continue to affect other portions of our listening area. A severe thunderstorm warning continues for Morgan and Sangamon counties until 9 a.m. Stay tuned for additional updates. I'm meteorologist Derek Height.
And you're listening to the WTIM morning show on your information station. That was a weatherology alert that came in because of some of the severe weather going on in the area. We'll attempt now to resume our conversation with Dr. Kent Redfield, professor of political science at the University of Illinois Springfield. We were talking about the millionaire tax constitutional amendment. Dr. Redfield, pick it back up from where you left off.
Okay. And so the legislature has to get a budget by the end of May. It's a constitutional issue where if they don't get something in place by the end of May, then they need an extraordinary majority to have it an immediate effective date. So they're working against the deadline, and they are short of money. Obviously, the things have been not going well in terms of the state's economy, national economy, and there have been, we've lost COVID funds, there have been federal reductions, and so, nobody, the legislature does not like to, make cuts in healthcare, social services, so they've been looking for more money, obviously, and one of the things they've talked about would be a constitutional amendment that would allow for a surcharge on incomes of $1 million or more. And you have to if you're going to do that, you have to have a constitutional amendment, because we still have a requirement in the state constitution that, that we have to have income taxes have to be at a flat rate. They have to be uniform, and that this would be an exception. And so this is certainly not without controversy in terms of, what this, how much money you could raise, who would who would be impacted, and what kind of impact would that have on Illinois' ability to keep to retain citizens and companies that have are the backbone of the state's economy in terms of big taxpayers, and so it does not look likely that this is going to pass, because if you're going to do a constitutional amendment, you've got to get it done again kind of around the end of May, because you have to give the election authorities out there in the various counties, this becomes part of the budget. It's on when you come in to vote for state representative and county board, this is when you would address a constitutional amendment. And so they frankly have just run out of time to get it done, because you have to pass the House, you have to pass the Senate. That's identical language, so you can't amend it in one place. You have to go back to, if you do that, go back to the other. Then the governor has to sign it. There's really no consensus on exactly what this should look like, and you have to get down to the details. Or how are you defining income? Gross income, net income. So we're probably going to pass a budget that has some pretty soft numbers in it, and we may have to come back and revise things in the fall. But if you are one of the lucky citizens or companies with incomes over $1 million, you're probably safe for another 2 years. So that would be the next opportunity that you'd have to get a constitutional amendment on the ballot. So I think again, it's unlikely to happen, and the hard choices on the budget really may not get made this spring. They may get, they'll probably be addressed after the general election, when we come back in November or December for the veto session.
Yeah, and so you were talking about, the time crunch that that the supporters of the amendment would have been under. So was this a case where, like, maybe they realized they needed to pass the constitutional amendment to overcome the budget shortfall, and by the time they realized it was too late? How did they sort of reach that kind of snag?
Yeah, it is. You're going to have an extraordinary majority, and so while the Democrats do have supermajorities in both chambers, you don't have a lot of votes to waste, and you're not going to get any Republican help on this at all. The Republicans would love to run against a Democrat in a tough district, and where they're saying, well, he voted to raise your taxes, and thereafter, they're going to drive companies out of Illinois. And so there was a reluctance to take this up. The governor really was ambivalent about doing it. And so unless you've got everybody pushing in the same direction, it's just easy for the wheels to come off. And it wasn't the case, really. The Republicans didn't have, you don't need a Republican vote, so they were not delaying action on this. But the Democrats really could never reach a consensus about, how good an idea this was, and particularly, before an election. And so, if they had hard numbers, they know what they need. But, they really don't know. And if the economy crashes because of the world situation and in terms of energy prices, there could be a much bigger hole than what they're thinking about now. So it was just not worth the effort to put yourself out there politically when you really couldn't be sure whether you were actually, how big a problem you're trying to solve, and whether this would handle a situation.
All right, so that's the way the amendment excuse me, proceeded on that occasion, and we'll see what happens in the future. But thank you for filling us in on that, Dr. Kent Redfield, professor of political science at the University of Illinois Springfield. Let's take a break because coming up, we'll talk about another big topic in Springfield that I think would be of interest to a lot of listeners, and we'll have that right on the other side of this break here on the WTIM Morning Show on your information station.
Your information station, WTIM.
Do you love the Christian County community? Are you the person who knows everyone in town and has a heart for the people who live here? Heart Media is looking for another sales account manager to join our team. We're hunting for a fun, outgoing person who wants to be the face of our media products. Help local businesses share their stories through radio and digital media. If you've got a drive to succeed and a passion for people, submit your resume. Connect at heartmg.com. Work where your ideas actually matter. Connect at heartmg.com.
Rain, ice, 2 a.m. It doesn't matter. When the lights go out, the linemen at Shelby Electric Cooperative head out 24/7, 365. These professionals are your neighbors, working in any condition to keep your power flowing. Let's give them the recognition they deserve. This Line Worker Appreciation Day, head to social media and use hashtag #ThankALineWorker. Show them you appreciate the power they provide.
I'm Nicole Patrick with Country Financial in Taylorville, where we make insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for home, car, or more, I take time to understand your specific insurance needs and explain what options work best for you. Call me, Nicole Patrick, at 217-287-2332 to get a quote or book an appointment today.
Auto and home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, and Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
April is National Alcohol Awareness Month, a time to understand how alcohol affects your body. Drinking too much can harm your brain, heart, liver, and pancreas, increasing the risk of high blood pressure, liver disease, and even cancer. It can also weaken your immune system. Making informed choices about alcohol can help protect your long-term health. This message is from Dr. Pavi Gill and the Lifestyle Medicine team at Springfield Clinic, Taylorville. Learn more at niaaa.nih.gov.
Turn your patio into the place everyone wants to be. I'm Alex Wright, 5th generation co-owner of Wright's Furniture. Shop our outdoor sale now through May 9th. Take 15% off all in-stock outdoor furniture or save 10% on custom outdoor orders made just for your space. From patio sets to sectionals, find comfort, style, and quality built to last. Plus, financing options are available. Visit us today and make your outdoor space your favorite place. Wright's Furniture, rightfully yours.
CNB Bank and Trust has been helping open doors for Central Illinois farmers since 1854. Find out why they're among Illinois' top ag lenders by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. Member FDIC.
Hi, I'm Bob Reddings with the Bob Reddings family of dealerships. See our huge inventory of about 2,000 vehicles by clicking on our ad at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome back to the WTIM Morning Show on your information station. The show is sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Reed Kamai, and joining me is Dr. Kent Redfield, the professor of political science at the University of Illinois Springfield. We spent the first segment talking about a millionaire tax constitutional amendment proposal, and we turn now to the situation going on with the Chicago Bears home stadium, because there's a lot of talk over where they might move. They've been wanting to move, and the destination has been a major talking point. And there are some legislative considerations that some folks in Springfield are looking at to in their view, hopefully, keep them in Illinois. And Dr. Redfield, I'd love it if you could explain what some of those pieces of legislation are and what some of the other factors are in this whole situation.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. No, we've had a kind of an ongoing situation where the Chicago Bears, have a stadium that does not have a roof, and we're known for bad weather in Illinois, and it also makes it difficult to host major championships. You're unlikely to get the Super Bowl slated to be held in Chicago. So the short version is they bought property out in Arlington Heights, where the old Arlington Heights International Raceway, and they've been trying to put together a package with the city of Evanston, who is obviously would benefit from the Bears coming there, but it would also have an impact, could have an impact on their tax base, and then the situation became more of more immediacy because Indiana has now decided that they would like to make a proposal about moving the Bears to Hammond, Indiana, and building a dome stadium. So a piece of legislation passed the House. It is now in the Senate, and there is a push to try to get this resolved before the end of the spring session. So you've got competing interests you have to put together. First and foremost, the legislature and the governor do not want to use public funds to build a new stadium for the Chicago Bears, and that's happened other places. It's that's very controversial, and you start taking general revenue and instead of putting it into the common school fund or expanding early childhood development, you give it to a private entity, the owners of the Bears, to build a stadium. Nobody wants that to happen, and so this bill tries to put together a funding program where essentially the city of Arlington and the Bears work out an agreement where you're going to freeze property taxes in the area where the Bears stadium is going to go, and then you'll get payments in lieu of taxes from the Bears to the city to kind of smooth out. There's going to be revenue's going to be very low when it's not developed. Later on, revenue would be very high. You're trying to work an agreement there. And what complicates it is the governor says, well, let's put this in a program where we can have mega projects and we can attract people that want to do other things, build a big manufacturing plant, and work out arrangements where we'll make it attractive for the company and attractive for the city to reach these agreements. And so now we're writing general legislation rather than Bears legislation. But you don't want to be in a posture where if you take property off the tax rolls, it raises everybody else's taxes. So now we're trying to get an arrangement where part of the money paid by the Bears goes into not just to the city, but goes into property tax relief. On top of that, you have to have infrastructure around where you have the stadium. There are ways to do that would, you would use capital, road fund money or generate another pot of money on essentially kind of a sales tax increment basis. So, you're trying to make all of this balance out. So you really are helping the Bears, but it's not general revenue fund if you're helping with the infrastructure.
Yeah.
And we're at the same posture with the constitutional amendment. You've got to get all of the competing parties to agree.
Yeah.
And you're working against a deadline. And if you don't get the numbers right, you're going to end up with, the city taking a huge hit,
Yeah.
or taxpayers taking a huge hit.
Yeah.
So worth doing, but a very difficult needle to
Yeah.
thread in a short period of time.
Exactly. Dr. Kent Redfield, thank you.
The Big 870 WTIM Assumption Taylorville. 96.1 FM Taylorville. 107.5 FM Shelbyville.